are opportunists. They're going to see this as a free shelter. This is definitely something worth investigating.
From the eerie silence of a forgotten structure swallowed by the forest to the heart-pounding chase through the shadows, let's dive into the Expedition Bigfoot's hidden struggles, climbing the ridge. The night was quiet. The forest felt alive but also eerie. Shadows stretched long under the moonlight. Somewhere beyond the river, an unsettling silence lingered. The trees stood tall, guarding their secrets. As the flashlight beamed across the river, nothing seemed unusual, but something felt wrong. There was no sign of movement. Only a small white shape appeared where nothing had been before. The lower part of it seemed to vanish. It was strange and unsettling. The ridge was steep and unwelcoming, like a wall daring anyone to climb it. Each step was a struggle. The ground felt loose, ready to slip away at any moment. Breathing became harder with every move upward. The forest grew tighter, twisting into a maze. The path ahead seemed to disappear. The climber stopped to look around. The trail they had followed was gone. The land seemed determined to hide its secrets. The slope rose straight up, with no clear way forward.
The bottom half is gone, and now it's just a small white circle. Whatever it was turned into a small white circle.
The forest remained silent, except for occasional rustling in the shadows. The realization struck hard. The trail was lost. There was no clear direction, only uncertainty. Whatever had been there earlier was now gone. All that remained was the strange white circle. It felt like something unnatural had erased the way forward.
Abandoned man-made facilities, once they're left and man has gone, nature will climb in over top of it.
Hoping for better news, thoughts turned to Russell. Somewhere else in the forest, Russell was following a different trail. Russell moved with purpose. His instincts led him through the dense trees. The air smelled foul, heavy with decay, and the odor clung to everything. He crouched to study the ground and noticed signs of an elk. This was no ordinary predator, he realized. It wasn't a bear or a cougar. The smell was too strong and unnatural. Whatever had been here left behind the stench of death. The trail reveals itself. Russell followed the scent to the base of a ridge. The ground felt strange under his boots. It was firm, almost unnatural. His sharp eyes scanned the horizon. Then, something changed. The forest opened slightly, and he spotted something unusual. Among the trees, there was a faint sign of something man-made. It stood out in the chaos of nature, a clue to something hidden. Russell pressed on, his determination growing. He hoped the forest would finally reveal its secrets. Russell stopped and bent down to examine the ground. It felt strange under his fingers, like asphalt.
Holy cow, look at that. It's a building. Wonder if this is one of the old abandoned coal mining towns.
His curiosity grew as he realized the unnatural texture didn't belong here. He stood up slowly, scanning the dense undergrowth ahead. Through the tangled branches, a shape began to form. At first, it was just a shadow, but as Russell moved closer, the outline became sharper. The object's edges stood out, too straight and precise for the wild surroundings. Russell took careful steps forward, and the shape revealed itself more clearly. It was a building. Fumbling with his flashlight, he aimed the beam at the structure. The light cut through the darkness, showing its full form. A forgotten structure. The building stood silent and eerie. Its cracked walls and weathered surface told stories of time and abandonment. Russell felt a mix of amazement and unease as he stared at the old structure. His thoughts raced. He wondered if this could be a remnant of the coal mining towns that once existed in the area. The idea thrilled him. The thought of such history lying forgotten in the middle of nowhere sent shivers down his spine. He moved closer, drawn by the mystery. Each step was slow and deliberate, as if he was entering a place where time had stopped. The structure loomed larger with every step. Nature reclaims. Nature had begun to take back what man had left behind. Vines crawled through broken windows, wrapping themselves around the structure. Moss clung to the crumbling wood, spreading like a green carpet. The forest was swallowing the building piece by piece. Russell felt the weight of the scene. The emptiness of the building seemed to breathe, as though it carried the ghost of its past. The silence was heavy, broken only by the faint sounds of the forest. The building reminded him how quickly nature reclaims abandoned places. He had seen this before. Once humans leave, nature moves in. Trees grow through walls, and animals find shelter in the ruins. He stepped closer, his senses on high alert. The structure was fascinating, but he couldn't ignore the feeling of unease. Such places often became havens for wildlife. He knew that animals would make use of any space they could find. Pressing forward. Russell's eyes darted toward the dark corners of the structure. His instincts told him that animals would see this place as free shelter. The thought made him uneasy, but curiosity pushed him forward. This place was worth exploring. He steadied himself and took a step inside. The beam of his flashlight cut through the heavy darkness, revealing crumbling walls and forgotten secrets. Each corner seemed to hold its own mystery. The silence inside the building was suffocating, wrapping around him like a heavy blanket. His flashlight moved across decaying remains of what was once a lively place. The stillness made every sound louder, every shadow darker. The building wasn't just abandoned, it was eerie, as though it carried the weight of all that had happened within its walls. Russell's mind raced as he imagined what kind of community had existed here and what had led to its downfall.
Holy cow, look at that. It's a building. I wonder if this is one of the old abandoned coal mining towns.
Memories of the past. The site reminded him of something familiar. Last year, during an expedition in the forest of Oregon, the team had come across another forgotten town. It had been hauntingly similar. He remembered the grim discovery they made back then. A child's mattress, tattered and decayed, lying among the ruins. The image had stayed with him, a reminder of the fragility of human life in the face of time and nature. Someone had spoken in a trembling voice, saying it was all for children. The memory returned now with startling clarity. The same questions that had haunted them before arose again. What had happened here? Why had people left? Russell felt a strange connection between this place and what they had uncovered in the past. It wasn't just about history or decay. It was the unsettling feeling that something larger was at play. Each step deeper into the structure made the air heavier. The forest seemed to watch from outside, and the building itself seemed alive with whispers of the past. Whatever this place had been, it was now part of a story that begged to be uncovered. The forgotten town. Russell knew that many Bigfoot sightings occurred in places filled with unsettling energy. The idea sent a chill down his spine. It was as if the mysteries of the wilderness were tied to the pain and suffering left behind by humans. He continued to explore, feeling the weight of the forgotten town grow heavier with each step. His flashlight moved over the wreckage, casting eerie shadows on crumbling walls. The air felt thick, heavy with history and decay. He stopped at a deep crack in the ground, crouching to inspect it. The crevice looked like the earth itself had been torn apart by time and neglect. The destruction wasn't just the result of abandonment. It felt like the land was slowly consuming what was left. The sight made him pause. Nature had taken over completely. Vines twisted through broken walls. Roots crept over everything, breaking apart what man had built. The forest seemed alive, reclaiming the space as its own, a shelter for life. Russell noted how animals would see this place as perfect shelter. Nature was opportunistic, always ready to take back what was left behind. The thought filled him with both wonder and unease. As he moved through the weeds, swarms of bugs attacked him relentlessly. They were everywhere, a constant reminder that this was their domain now. He swatted at them, but it was useless. The insects seemed determined to make him leave. Walking through the overgrown ruins, Russell pictured what the town must have been like in its prime. He imagined sidewalks where the weeds now grew tall. He thought of streets filled with life, now completely hidden under the wilderness. Ghosts of the past. As Russell moved through the ruins, he felt as though he was speaking to the ghosts of the town's past. He imagined it as a thriving coal mining community. The sound of machinery filled the air. The streets buzzed with life, laughter, and hard work. But now, it is all gone. The sight before him was a stark reminder of how quickly time changes everything. He thought about the prosperity that once existed here. Now it was quiet, overtaken by vines and decay. Russell reflected on the sadness of it all. Seeing something that was once so strong and vibrant, being swallowed by nature, weighed heavily on him. The smell that had guided him to this place was gone. He inhaled deeply, trying to catch it again, but there was nothing. The odor had disappeared completely. Frustration crept in as Russell realized he might not find anything here. The wilderness, with all its secrets, offered no answers, only silence and more questions. It was time to move on. Brushing the dust off his hands, Russell decided to focus on his immediate needs. He needed to find a place to rest. "Let's see if I can find a spot to set up camp," he thought. Determination replaced his earlier frustration. There was still work to be done. 2 miles to the south, Mireya and Ronnie made their way through the forest. Leaves rustled softly, and their footsteps crunched lightly on the ground. They moved with purpose, focused on their mission. The duo had a clear goal. Their path led toward a water source, a crucial point where life in the forest was most active. Mireya spoke calmly, her voice firm. She reminded Ronnie to keep a low profile as they moved through the shadows. They didn't want to draw attention to themselves. Their movements were quiet and deliberate. Mireya instructed that only low lights should be used to stay hidden. With their walkie-talkies ready, the pair was equipped to face whatever the forest had in store. Ronnie confirmed everything was in place, his tone steady. Together, they disappeared deeper into the trees. The trail ahead was uncertain, filled with the promise of discovery or danger. Whatever lay ahead, Mireya and Ronnie knew one thing: there was no turning back. The camp and final preparations. Under the dense canopy of the forest, Mireya and Ronnie worked quietly at their camp. Their voices were low, their actions deliberate. The only mechanical sound was the faint buzz of their walkie-talkies, breaking the profound silence of the woods. Ronnie whispered, his tone cautious but steady. "If you run into anything, just use the walkie to keep in touch." Mireya nodded, her eyes scanning the trees. "We'll need to whisper the whole time," she reminded him, her voice barely above a breath. The plan was simple. One would head toward the water source, and the other would explore the trail leading back to the trailhead. Mireya made her choice quickly.
"I want to head down to the water source then."
Okay, yeah, no, go down this way.
All right, if you hear anything, just radio me.
Same.
All right, good luck, man.
Okay.
"I'll head down to the water source," she said, her decision firm. Ronnie agreed, gesturing toward the opposite path. "All right, I'll go this way. If you hear anything, just radio me," he added. "Same," Mireya replied, adjusting her gear and giving a slight nod. "Good luck," Ronnie said, and with that, they parted ways. Mireya moved with precision through the dense undergrowth, her path illuminated only by the faint beam of her flashlight. Each step was calculated, her years of nocturnal fieldwork guiding her through the unfamiliar terrain. She thought about her past expeditions. "I've spent so many nights searching for primates in jungles," she murmured to herself, her voice steady despite the eerie stillness. But tonight was different. The complete darkness pressed in around her. Even with her light, the forest felt alive, its every sound magnified. Leaves rustled faintly in the breeze, and distant animal calls echoed through the trees. The weight of the unknown. As Mireya pressed forward, the air grew heavier. The path to the water source was uneven, overgrown with roots and vines. Each step brought new sounds, a snapping branch, the faint ripple of water in the distance. The forest seemed to pulse with life, its presence amplified by the pitch-black surroundings. Her flashlight flickered momentarily, casting strange shadows on the dense foliage. Mireya paused, her breath steady but her pulse quickened. She adjusted her grip on the flashlight, her instincts on high alert. "Never like this," she thought to herself. She moved onward, the water source drawing closer with each step. The silence around her seemed louder than ever, broken only by the soft crunch of her boots on the forest floor.
And it's really about using your hearing more than it is about using your eyes.
The dense forest. Mireya moved carefully through the forest. The beams of her flashlight cut through the dense undergrowth but revealed little. The light seemed swallowed by the thick foliage. She strained her eyes to see through the shadows. Adjusting to the low visibility was tough, but Mireya kept going. She believed that if anything was out there, it would be near the water source. Water meant life, and life meant activity. Earlier that evening, the team had prepared for this. They placed 12 cameras along the trail. These cameras were positioned to capture any movement that their eyes might miss. Each camera stood still, waiting to record anything unusual in the forest. Mireya trusted the equipment, but she knew she needed more than just sight, relying on hearing. Mireya focused on her hearing. She had learned that in the dark, listening was often more important than seeing. Her ears were tuned to the faintest sounds around her. Every crackle and rustle could mean something. The terrain began to change. Mireya noticed the land rising slightly in front of her. She realized she was approaching a ridge. She paused and studied the outline of the ridge against the faint starlight. Her path seemed to lead straight up. She decided to proceed cautiously. As Mireya climbed, the forest grew eerily quiet. The usual noises of wildlife were absent. Every step she took felt loud in the heavy silence. Her movements were careful, and her breath barely broke the stillness. The oppressive quiet pressed against her ears, making her heartbeat feel louder. She scanned the area with her flashlight. The patterns of light on the trees brought no comfort. The silence was unsettling. It felt unnatural, as though the forest was holding its breath. A disturbance in the quiet. Then, Mireya heard something. It was faint, distant, and subtle. The sound cracked through the silence like breaking glass. She froze, her body tensing instinctively. Her ears strained to catch more details. It could be something small, she thought, but it might also be something bigger. She stayed rooted to her spot, her senses heightened. She scanned the area again with her flashlight, searching for movement. More sounds began to emerge. Faint pops and cracks came from somewhere nearby. The subtle noises suggested movement, something unseen shifting in the shadows. Mireya's unease deepened. She knew whatever was making the sound was close. The forest, once silent, now felt alive with tension. Every rustle seemed amplified. Her heart raced, but she remained still. She tilted her head slightly, trying to pinpoint the direction of the noise. Mireya noticed the sound seemed to come from above her. She stopped and tilted her head back, staring into the canopy. The faint sound grew more distinct. Something was there. The forest stillness seemed to shift, as if the wilderness itself was watching her. Mireya's breath hitched as the realization settled in. She knew she wasn't alone. The forest had become a place of secrets, and she was stepping deeper into its mystery. A strange sound on the ridge. Mireya thought the sound was coming from the top of the ridge. She whispered this into her walkie-talkie. The forest around her seemed to grow darker and closer as she tried to listen carefully. She believed it was definitely something unusual. Her body felt tense, a mix of curiosity and fear filling her mind. Miles away, Ronnie's voice came through the walkie-talkie. He sounded calm and focused as he moved closer to the water source. Mireya responded, saying she was also nearing the area. She moved slowly and quietly, making sure not to make a sound. After a brief pause, Ronnie spoke again, but his tone was now filled with concern. He warned her to stay cautious. Mireya replied softly, assuring him she would. Both of them understood the dangers of being in this mysterious forest. Every step they took blurred the line between being hunters and becoming the hunted, nearing the water source. The sound of rushing water became louder as Mireya approached. The noise was so strong it drowned out almost every other sound. She thought about how overwhelming it was. The water was all she could hear. Then, an unsettling feeling crept over her. She started to feel like something was following her. This thought made her even more careful as she moved closer to the water. Just a few yards ahead, she saw the abandoned mine. It was a large, dark opening in the earth. The size of it suggested it could be a perfect hiding place for something big, something mysterious. Her heart started beating faster as thoughts raced through her mind. Could this be it? Could this be the creature's home? The one they had been searching for so long? Suddenly, a sharp noise broke through the loud rush of water. Mireya stopped in her tracks. Her senses went into overdrive, and her body filled with adrenaline. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. She grabbed her walkie-talkie in a panic. Her voice trembled as she tried to call Ronnie. There was no reply. She called again, louder this time, hoping he would respond, but there was still no answer. The sound of rushing water almost drowned out her words, but the silence on the other end of the radio was unsettling. It felt like a void, a reminder of how alone she was in this vast wilderness. She turned slowly, her flashlight cutting through the heavy shadows. The beam revealed nothing but the dark, empty forest. Her breathing quickened. The sensation of being watched crept over her like a cold chill. The forest, which had been alive with the sound of water moments ago, now felt oppressive. The silence wasn't empty. It was charged, heavy, and alive with an unseen presence. Mireya felt it in every fiber of her being. She took a cautious step forward. The world seemed to hold its breath with her. The stillness was overwhelming. She muttered under her breath that it was now too quiet. Her flashlight struggled to pierce the unrelenting darkness. She could barely see more than a foot ahead. The unknown pressed down on her, making every second feel heavier. Mireya decided she couldn't stay there. She whispered into her radio, saying she was heading back toward their camp. Her voice was steady, though fear gripped her tightly. Just then, a loud sound shattered the silence. Heavy footsteps thundered nearby. They were fast, too close for comfort. Mireya froze. Her flashlight jerked wildly as she spun toward the noise. Her radio crackled as she described what she had just heard. Something large had run past her, but she couldn't see it. Shadows danced at the edges of her vision, teasing her with their silence. Frustrated and panicked, Mireya tried to focus her light, but the source of the noise remained hidden. The forest comes alive. A rustling sound came from her left. She whipped the flashlight toward it and held her breath. She whispered, barely audible, that there was something out there. The forest felt alive. The darkness itself seemed like a living, breathing presence. Mireya could feel something watching her. She couldn't see it, but she could feel its eyes, sharp and unrelenting, boring into her from the shadows. The vastness of the wilderness had never felt so consuming. Mireya and Ronnie's search had brought them to the edge of what felt like reality. This place, where the explainable and unexplainable blended, was unlike anything they had ever experienced. Whatever was out there, it stayed just beyond their reach. It was close enough to feel, but always far enough to evade. Mireya began making her way back to the camp, her flashlight trembling slightly in her hand. The night wasn't over, and the forest wasn't finished revealing its secrets. This was only the beginning of their encounter with the unknown. Out into the woods for that camping trip? You'd think movies like Cabin in the Woods, Evil Dead, or The Descent would let you guys know that there are some really creepy things out there in those dark, creepy forests. Well, if those movies won't help you, maybe some of these clips of the scariest hiking encounters witnessed on camera will do you this service. Shape-shifting creature. It's crazy how some of these encounters would be blown off if some random guy told you about their crazy experience when they were in the middle of nowhere. Well, thanks to these trail cams that some people saw fit to fix in the woods, we get to experience the first-hand account of what happened when some people had encounters with some of the strangest things out there. Take this instance, for example. Some time ago, this trail camera was set up deep in one of these dark and murky woods so that they could capture footage of the wildlife that are domiciled there. You'd find that this is one of the most common uses of trail cams, as we cannot truly know what these creatures in the woods get up to in our absence. Well, it looks like this trail cam got a lot more than it bargained for. When it just happened to record something that would prove to be truly troubling, to say the least. Don't take our word for it. Take a look at this unsettling clip for yourself. What on earth was that? Tall and hovering over the water with its glowing red eyes, standing there motionless. It is truly unsettling just to watch on our screens. Imagine having an encounter with something like that in real life. The first thing that you'd be worried about, if you are ever able to regather your wits, is just what on earth this thing is. As if the recording was not strange enough, things get even weirder when the strange being slowly sinks into the water before a man emerges from the same spot mere moments after. Frightened and shaken, the lost and dazed man looked around frantically, as if he didn't know how or why he was even out there in the dead of night. Is there any chance that this trail cam just happened to capture the recording of a shapeshifter, albeit a disoriented one? What do you guys think? Please let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Daddy, what's that? Let's stray away from the trail cams a little, but this time, we're going to follow a father and his son as they went out on a camping trip back in January 2015. Hoping to bond as much as possible during this father and son camping expedition, such plans were quickly abandoned when the pair happened to hear these strange sounds.
Go, Ray, go. Hold on. Sorry, slow step. Hold on, listen. What is it? What is it? Is it following us? Stay right there.
These sounds would eventually lead to one of the most unnerving experiences of the pair's lives. Frightened out of his wits, it didn't take much for Dad to make sure that he and his boy hightailed it out of there. Not curious at all about what was out there hiding behind the trees, Dad knew that the first order of business was to make sure he and his son got out of there without getting harmed by whatever they were having an encounter with. Although they would stop momentarily to make sure that they were okay, the pair would soon realize that they had every cause for concern when they noticed this tall, dark figure lurking within the tall trees. Suffice it to say, the pair got out of Dodge before this strange creature could get its claws on them. Scary stuff. Thankfully, Dad here was able to assess the situation well enough so that he could get his son and himself to safety. Close call indeed. YouTube monster in the woods. Next up, we just have to take a look at what happened to Jasko and Benjamin, a pair of YouTubers who went out camping in the woods. While they were out there camping, the pair decided that it may be fun to read a letter from a viewer who had decided to explore the same woods that they were currently camping in. That should have been fun, right? What ought to have been a night of fun and relaxation would turn into something truly troubling as they read out the details of the experience of their predecessor. Just look at the events as they occurred. Understandably, the pair was scared out of their wits when they realized that something was approaching their tent from outside. What on earth have these guys gotten themselves into? Despite the harrowing nature of the situation, the pair pushed on with their read of their predecessor's experience in these woods, but even that could not help to soothe their nerves for long because they would be startled by the fact that something made their tent ripple. Frightened, the pair decided that it may be best to just hold out and wait out the night in their tent. Unfortunately, that would not be the best coping mechanism to adopt, because even though they would eventually fall asleep, a sudden loud noise close to their tent made the pair shoot up to attention. Convinced that something had just made contact with their tent, the pair jumped out, hoping to lay their eyes on what could be causing this disturbance at this ungodly hour. As you can imagine, the events as they occurred cleared up any doubts that they were alone out there. The only question left now was what on earth could be bothering them out there in the middle of nowhere. The only way that they could ever figure this out was to confront whatever was out there. With torches in their hands, Jasko went out on a search in the darkness. Calling out to whatever was out there, Jasko hoped that he could bring this entire scary experience to an end, while Benjamin waited in the tent. Well, it ended up being Benjamin, who would eventually come in contact with whatever was out there. While Jasko searched around the woods with their torch, Benjamin would find that whatever was out there had made its way back to the tent. While he was waiting for Jasko to come back, Benjamin would be startled to attention when he realized that something was grabbing at the zipper of their tent. Frightened out of his wits, he called out to Jasko, who would return. Although he would only find Benjamin at their tent, the pair was certain that someone of something was out there with them. This time, however, they were not so interested in finding what it was. Completely harrowed by what they had just experienced, the pair decided to run for it. They were so alarmed by what they had just experienced that they deserted the campsite without taking much of their belongings with them as they fled. What do you think was out there with them? Truly unsettling experience. Sasquatch in the woods. In yet another camping trip in the woods, a group of friends will find that it isn't always a great idea to try and be one with nature, especially as you do not know exactly what may be lurking within those creepy woods. That is because while the group of friends enjoyed the serene nature of the woods that they happened to find themselves in, they would soon find that they were within the proximity of a strange creature that was hiding behind a tree. With its light-colored fur, small dark eyes, and other strange features, those who came across it couldn't help but feel that this was a minute-sized Sasquatch or something of the like. Do you think this could be a Sasquatch? Please let us know what you think in the comment section. Clown encounter of a strange kind. We follow another set of YouTubers who would eventually learn that it may not be such a great idea to wander into these dark woods. Working under the banner of Chamos, their YouTube channel, the pair decided to go wandering into these woods in the dead of night, thinking it was going to be child's play. Alas,
Brutou pra lá, tá apagando lá.
Deixa eu ver.
O que vocês estão falando? Olha lá. Tá apagando, tá vendo?
Cara, parece que tá acendendo de novo,
Não,
Jefinho.
tá apagando. Olha lá, tá perdendo força.
They would learn that these dark woods are no joke when the expedition into the woods took a sudden and disturbing turn. It all started when they were frightened out of their wits because they just happened to notice this bright light from a distance. Somehow, they gathered the nerve to approach said light. This paid off because they realized that this was just a man who was standing out there with a brightly lit candle. Then again, as they got closer, they must have come to wonder about why some guy would be out there with a brightly lit candle. As they got closer, they soon realized that they weren't looking for just one candlelight, they were looking at several. It didn't take too long for them to see the full scene before them. Apparently, they were looking at a clown who was performing some sort of ritual out there in the middle of nowhere. What were the chances? As puzzling as watching this strange ritual was, things got even scarier when the clown noticed that he was not alone anymore. Uh-oh. Frightened out of their wits, the men were lucky that their flight or fight instincts kicked in at that point in time because they knew that it was time for them to get out of Dodge. Luckily, they were able to avoid getting caught by the clown, thereby ensuring that they got to safety. Well, we're sure that after these encounters, these guys will be a bit more wary about heading out into the woods in the dead of night. You just don't know what you're going to find when you are out there. Haunted house. Let's take a look at the events that occurred in this abandoned mansion. Apparently, the property had a very colorful history. Some speculated that this abandoned mansion was once a safe haven, or something of a retirement home for the members of the Freemason, the ancient secret society of lore. This mansion has been also known to be something of a refuge for Catholic nuns. It has even been the subject matter of a real estate venture by the brother of the host of the property. But it may be important to know that there are some harrowing elements to this property. For starters, there are rumors that certain satanic rituals may have taken place there. There is also the rumor that the property was considered to be something of a watering hole.
This door. No. The door just opened by itself. No.
Which one?
That door just opened by itself. That door just opened by itself.
For white supremacists and their activities. Hoping to get the exact history of this property, a group of what could prove to be investigators decided that they were going to explore this abandoned mansion. As they hiked their way through the forest so that they could get to this abandoned mansion, they would find a lot more than they bargained for when they had what would prove to be a rather alarming encounter with something truly spooky. Taking the accounts detailed in this clip, we can see how the group's inquisitive nature eventually took them to the site where they just witnessed a group of people take part in some sort of dark ritual. Truly unbelievable stuff, especially as they were in the middle of nowhere. Although they were able to get away from the group of ritualists, the group was still unnerved by their encounter.
So, trying to see if we hear any, voices, as they said, they heard.
That's crazy.
The fear still brewing from said encounter was made worse by the fact they were still being disturbed by some strange noises coming out of the dark woods. It was so bad that the group couldn't shake off the feeling that they was being followed. Things got even worse when they suddenly heard a call to get them. With that in mind, it is understandable that the group didn't need any more prompting to flee from the scene. Once they were back to safety, the group expressed that they were sure that they had just witnessed a ritual. Scary stuff. What sort of ritual was it? We do not know. What we do know is that it may be best to stay out of those woods for a while, especially if you'd rather avoid an encounter with some interesting individuals. A not-so-peaceful day in the woods. This time, we follow the accounts of an entire family that decided that the best way for them to spend time together was to enjoy a peaceful day in the middle of the woods in Canada. As the family enjoyed their camping experience, we hope they cherished the fun moments because they would not last for long. After some time spent frolicking in said woods, the fun atmosphere would dissolve when the family would notice something that would change the course of the day. What a terrible roar. As awful as this noise was, it was nowhere as terrible as the tall, dark creature that released such a terrifying sound. Dark and massive, the family was sure that they did not want to have a close-up encounter with whatever that creature was. The moment they laid eyes on it, they knew that they had to create a lot of distance between it and whatever it was. The moment was made to look even more harrowing, because as their family ran off, they were shocked to find that the creature was chasing after them. So much for a peaceful day out in the woods. We're gonna bet that it will take a while for this family to return to these woods, that's for sure. Harrowing adventure in abandoned underground city. This takes us to the events that occurred when a YouTuber by the name of Zach uploaded a video of one of his harrowing adventures. This adventure would be interesting for many of his subscribers, not only because of the frightening aspects of it, but perhaps because Zach is known for catching fish and snakes. This is a far cry from the exploration of an abandoned underground city that was recorded in the video. That said, it turns out that he was only there so that he could capture this python that he had been searching for some time now. Alas, our YouTuber will find that he would get way more than he bargained for as he went deeper into this underground city. For some reason, Zach decided to go on this adventure alone. This would prove to be a bad idea because as he got deeper into the abandoned underground city, he would find that the experience was getting more unnerving by the moment. Before long, he would be disturbed by the murmurs echoing off the walls. Frightened out of his wits, it became clear to him that he was no longer alone. For some time, he decided to wait in the darkness because he wanted to reduce the chances of being detected by those that may be down there with him. Not able to see how scary the situation was anymore, he figured that it may be best to get out of there as soon as possible, with or without any snakes. Little did he know how right he was, at least not until he got to review the recordings he took.
What? Hello? Oh my god. Oh hell no. Hell no.
Upon reviewing the tapes, he realized that he picked up the figure of something standing in the darkness. As he looked at the strange figure, he realized that he did feel something strange at the time, although he couldn't point to the source of the strange feeling at the time. Thankfully, he was able to get out of there before he found out about what that was the hard way. Don't feed the bears. This time, we follow a Reddit user who recalled one time that she decided to go hiking in the woods. Known as Subject Appropriate 17, the Reddit user recalled the time she just happened to run into a mother bear and her cubs while she was on said hike. As some of us may know, this is not the beautiful moment that Disney and the likes may have imprinted into our heads. Many of us may be familiar with the fact that a wild animal may not be so welcoming, especially when they are looking after their young ones. Bears could be especially vicious, especially when they feel like they have been put in a position to protect their young ones. Luckily, our Reddit user was wise enough to evade the mother bear and her cubs. Who knows how dark the situation would have gotten if she decided to interact with the wild animals. Stranger in the middle of nowhere. We follow a group of friends who were hiking up a trail back in 2019. Seems harmless enough, right? Who wouldn't want to make the most of nature? As they did this, they eventually decided that it may be time for them to take a much-needed break. However, as they took the said break, they realized that there was a stranger calling to them from a distance. Although this may have been fair enough in normal circumstances, the group was so familiar with the area that they knew that it was strange to find anyone else out there. With that in mind, they could not help but wonder about who this man may be and what he may want from them. Well, they stopped wondering about that when they realized that the man had one of his hands behind his back. Not wanting to find out if the man may be armed with a knife as they suspected, the group knew well enough to flee the scene. That said, running away didn't seem to solve their problem, because after some time, they realized that they were being followed. Said follower revealed that he did have a knife. Just as they tried to make their decision about what to do, they realized that the knife wielder was even closer than they thought.
Waving. Weird, I guess. Hi. Where has hands behind his back? Is that a knife, bro? Yo, just get out of here, man. Let's just go. What the hell, bro? Is this really happening, bro? Yo, I promise every time I come, nobody's here. Should we go? Let's go.
With no other option, the group ran off until they found a place that they could hide from their potential assailant. After waiting for the stranger to pass by, the group rushed over to their car so that they could get as far away from the situation as possible. You never know who you could run into when you are enjoying a hike. Stranger in the show. Finally, we take a look at this photo shared by another Reddit user. This photo was of 3 kids who seemed to be having fun at Jeffrey Cliffs, a well-known spot in Hallville. The pictures of the kids are ruined by the presence of this strange creature that was lurking in the background. Looking at it, we can kind of make out that this is a photo of a man with a mustache. He is wearing a hat and a purple shirt. What is even stranger about the photo of this man is that the mother of the kids, who happened to be the one who took the photo, has revealed that there was no other person present when she took the photo of her kids. As such, she has no idea as to how this man got into the photo of her kids. It made people wonder who this man is. Was he a really skilled stalker? Or is there any chance that Mama managed to take the picture of a ghost? What do you guys think? Please let us know your thoughts in the comment section. One thing is for sure though, there are some truly scary things lurking out there in the woods. From running into strange shape-shifting creatures, lurking in some of the most remote parts of the woods, to having potential encounters with ghosts and phantoms while camping out with your kids, here are some of the strangest hiking encounters caught on camera.